Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for holding and welcome to the SBM Offshore Q3 2018 Trading Update conference call. At this moment, all participants are in listen-only mode. After the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. I would now like to hand over the conference to Mr. Arno Dutte, Investor Relations. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you, operator, and thank you all for joining us today. Today's call is being recorded and will be available for replay on the company's website. Today's prepared remarks will be delivered by Mr. Bruno Chabas, followed by a Q&A session. Before we begin, I would like to point out the disclaimer at the bottom of our press release and remind participants that some of our comments today may include forward-looking statements reflecting SBM Offshore's view of future events. These matters involve risks and uncertainties that could cause our results to materially differ from our forward-looking statements. The risks are discussed in detail in SBM Offshore's 2017 annual report, which can be found on the company's website. Once again, we'll welcome your questions after the conclusion of the prepared remarks. I will now turn the call over to Bruno.
Thank you, Arno, and good morning to all. Thank you for taking the time to join SBM Offshore Q3 2018 Trading Update call. My name is Bruno Chabas, CEO of SBM Offshore, and all members of our management board are joining me today. Our performance for the year to date reflects the quality of our lease and operate business, which continues to reliably generate stable cash flow from our substantial backlog. Our major projects are progressing in line with schedules. These projects, combined with higher turnkey activity, will increasingly contribute to the company cash generation. We see acceleration in our market on the basis of industry fundamentals and believe we are uniquely positioned to benefit from this upturn. To secure future production, our clients are required to invest, and deepwater is one of the areas that ranks favorably in their project portfolio. As a result, SBM Offshore is witnessing increased client interest and commitment, especially in our game-changing fast-forward program. To meet the future demand, we are pleased to announce the commitment to our second multi-purpose hull for the fast-forward program. On Brazil, we have paid the amounts associated with the leniency agreement signed in July, which allows us to compete for new opportunities with Petrobras. We are awaiting fifth chamber approval with regard to the MPF agreement signed September 1st this year. As we previously reported, this will require an associated payment of $48 million. The year-to-date revenues for Q3 landed at just above $1.2 billion, which is a stable performance compared to the year-ago period. Lower revenues in lease and operate due to the sales of FPSO Turitella were offset by turnkey revenues that more than doubled. The net debt position at the end of September was $2.3 billion, representing a decrease of around $600 million compared to year-end 2017. This decrease was driven by strong operating cash flow from the lease and operate activity, the Turitella sale, and proceeds from the final settlement of the IME insurance case. This cash inflow more than offset the outflows related to project loan interest payments, investment in FPSO Liza Destiny, and the first fast-forward hull. As I mentioned, the company reached final settlement on the IME insurance case, bringing the total settlement to $390 million. After reimbursement of claim-related expenses, this will be shared with Repsol following the contractual arrangement. We conclude with the 2018 full-year guidance. We maintain our 2018 directional revenue guidance of around $1.7 billion, of which around $1.3 billion is expected from the lease and operate segment and around $400 million in the turnkey segment. Based on our good performance year to date, we upgrade our 2018 directional EBITDA guidance from around 750 million to above 750 million. For clarity, this guidance assumes 100% of Liza Destiny ownership and does not take into account the gain on the sale of FPSO Turritella, the provisions for the MPF agreement, and the estimated net positive impact in 2018 from the IME settlement. Also, as a reminder, the guidance includes the expected positive impact from the implementation of IFRS 16. So in summary, SBM Offshore is on track for the year, and on the basis of good performance, we upgrade our EBITDA guidance. The industry upturn is picking up, and on this basis, and on the basis also of our clients' interest, and especially for Fast Forward, we have ordered our second Fast Forward hull. So this concludes the prepared remark, and we open the call for questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, as said, we will start the question and answer session now. If you have a question or remark, please press star one. So star one for your question or remark. Go ahead, please. The first question is coming from Mr. Peter Testa, One Investments. Go ahead, please.
I'll go one at a time for simplicity. One is just on the guidance upgrade. I was wondering if you could give some sort of more comment as to what the motivation or source of better business which drives the guidance upgrade, please, on the EBITDA.
I mean, Douglas will expand on this, but today really the guidance upgrade is linked to the good performance we're having on our operation and turnkey activity. But Douglas, do you want to expand on this?
Yeah, a bit further. So, I mean, it's a function of the fact that we're now 3 quarters into the year, nearing the end of the year, so we've got better visibility on the results. I think things are going well in both businesses. And I think, as we mentioned at the first half, Bruno just mentioned in his remarks, we've seen a bit more activity in turnkey, so more engineering man hours being used. And then we also mentioned as well at the first half, we've been successful in closing out a number of outstanding items on finalized projects. So it's hopefully a little bit more cover for you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then the second question is on the decision to write down the Brazza yard, and you know, in conjunction with the comment about uncertainty and evolution of local content regulations. I mean, I guess there's from the outside, there's 3 different possibilities or a combination thereof. I mean, first, that maybe Fast Forward production of units is just not appropriate for Brazza, given the engineering and structure and so on of the Fast Forward vessel. The second, that there's no Petrobras order visibility that would use the yard for at least 2 years. There's just a shortage of good, profitable Petrobras work compared to other opportunities. And the third is that, you know, MODEC have been running, you know, contracts for the last few years with very little local content compared to what Brazza would imply, and you just think it's just not so necessary to win the work anymore to have that yard. And any view on how, on comments around those 3 ideas or other ideas that go behind the decision to write down the Brazza yard now, please?
Yeah, definitely. And Philippe is going to take this question. But just as a quick introduction on the subject, is when we developed the Fast Forward concept, the Fast Forward concept was developed along the line of having local content wherever we need to develop those. So the Fast Forward has really no impact concept on the write down that we're discussing about. But Philippe is going to give you more information on it.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So regarding Brazza and Brazil, we remain positive about the Brazilian market and potential application for Fast Forward. With the delivery of Cidade de Marica and Saquarema, our 2 last FPSO for Petrobras, Brazza had played a key role to deliver high level of local content. As you can see from the monthly producer report, those 2 units are almost every month in the top 5 producers, confirming that SBM Offshore is providing highly reliable solution. Now, linked to our return mid-2018 to the tenderers list, the cycle of extended tender period to project to actual fabrications mean that before there's a potential fabrication, we should support the decision to move forward. Now, we have to take into consideration as well the perception that the current future for FPSO is with a more moderate appetite for local content and opportunities. One that can be served by various execution means, including Brazza, but not exclusively.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So really,
Yep, that helps.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Ms. Lillian Stark, Morgan Stanley. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good morning, and thank you for taking my question. I just had a question around the second fast-forward vessel overhaul that you mentioned. If you could give us a bit of detail on the capex and sort of the conversations that you're having with clients in terms of the commitments that could potentially come with this hull.
Yeah, definitely, and also to give you some perspective on the overall program for Fast Forward. So, Philippe.
Yep. So whenever we placed the order for the first hull, it was a confirmation that the vision for an optimized next generation FPSO had made the understanding of major customers. It was quickly followed, as you remember, by the signature of the Liza 2 contract with Exxon and its partner. The contract is progressing well, and the fabrication of the first hull as well. Now, with the second hull being placed, it means that multiple customers have confirmed their interest with PET studies, and that it is the practical decision to take to support their potential needs on targeted fields. Our ambition remains for Fast Forward to be a program and to transform the FPSO industry. And I feel sorry I'm not going to be able to give you a capex value.
No worry, that's fine. Thank you.
The next question comes from Mr. Edward Donahue, One Investments. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. The first question was answered. There's just a follow-up on what was asked by the Morgan Stanley analyst. Just an idea on the number of FEED studies that you have in hand that actually are working within the framework of Fast Forward, to give an idea how that progression is going.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into the detail on the number of FEED study we are having at this stage. It's not something that we disclose. However, what I can give you is to give you a flavor of the level of interest we can see in the market at this stage overall for the FPSO industry. Today we're tracking a number of projects, in fact 45 projects in 25 countries, and those projects could be materializing in the coming 2 to 3 years. Some of them are fast forward, some of them are not fast forward, but it gives you the magnitude of the spread and the depth of the demand which is coming up in our segment of the industry. So based on this, plus based on the interest that we're getting on fast forward, and our belief that today there's not enough capacity to answer the demand of FPSO going forward, if you don't standardize, we already are committed to further of the fast forward program.
Okay, and just a follow-up. Having placed the order, when would you expect delivery of the Fast Forward hull?
It's it's in the space of 24 months, 24 to 30 months.
And then a final question from myself, just going back to what Douglas was saying with regard to engineering utilization. Is that actually increasing scope on existing projects, or is that inflow of new projects requiring greater utilization?
It's a combination of the two. In fact, given the good performance on the turnkey activity, you can infer that the additional utilization of engineering is coming from inflow of new projects.
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, for any further additional question, please press star 1. The next question is coming from Mr. Karel Gol, FD. Go ahead, please.
Simple question for me. you've been very upbeat about this year and also the market. The recovery is accelerating. Why don't you give guidance for next year? Because it seems that do you expect this year, next year, to be better than this year? And also, it seems to be. I mean, we're almost in the finalizing 2018. Yet it's a marginally different outlook. So it seems that you're a bit prudent in giving an outlook, or is it just my feeling?
Yeah, I think it's probably if you look at the cycle of how we give outlook for the next year, you will see that those outlook are coming later on in the year or beginning of next year in order to give outlook. Having said that, if you also have followed us in the last conference call and even on this one, what you could see is that we see that we're going to see a growing level of activity, but this growing level of activity also is sustained by our strong cash flow as a company, and we're going to be able to maintain and to develop our dividend policy. So we have been, I think we have provided guidance to the market on the level of activity coming up and the financial strength of the company in order to be able to reward our shareholders.
Well, a final question from me then, for you, Mr. Chabas. It must be somehow be a better feeling to be CEO nowadays than it was a couple of years ago, I guess, with the upbeat market. Is it true? Are you in a happier mode than a few years back?
I don't think happiness feels into this matter, but what I can say is over the past 7 years as a company, we already have done a lot of things in order to put the past behind, in order to invest for the future, to position ourselves in the future. In 2014, we said that we were going to start to invest into the Fast Forward program with the belief that the market was going to restart and reaccelerate sometime by 2019 to 2020. We're in this phase. We're starting to see some effect of the market coming up. So obviously, it's better to be in a phase of upturn than in a phase where you need to clean up everything and downturn. But it put more emphasis, I would say, on the delivery and more optimism for the company. So yes, I mean, happiness has nothing to do with this, but it's definitely a better mood in the company.
Okay, thank you.
The next question comes from Mr. Andre Mulder, Kepler. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. 2 questions. First question, can you give a bit more of a comment on the second impairment on the floater subsidiary in the US? Sounds a bit strange if you're quite bullish on the floater segment that you impair on the floater subsidiary. Does this relate to the old Atlantia subsidiary?
Yeah, okay. So Philippe is going to go through the detail, but you're spot on. So go on, Philippe.
Andre, as Heracles used to say, there is nothing permanent except change. So in your question, there are 2 elements. One is related to the Houston office, and the other one, yes, it's Atlantia, is a write-off of the sector of the floating production unit. On one side, the FPU, floating production unit, has always been a narrower market, primarily for Gulf of Mexico, and with some opportunities in Asia. In the down cycle, we have been working with US customers, regulatory authorities and classification societies, leading to an optimized semi-design. Now, as we look at the market, we cannot see short-term EPC award leading to the write-off. On the other hand, the positive optic on the FPSO market and the solid experience of Houston in the FPSO, they have delivered the Shell Curie-Taylor FPSO, allows us to redirect the workforce to this core market.
Does this have any implications on your local workforce there? Are you going to shrink the number of centers you're concentrating on?
No,
not at all.
Yeah, I mean, as Philippe was mentioning, it's given the level of demand that we have, we are redirecting FPSO work to the Houston center, and basically we don't see any impact on the workforce. In fact, we see an increase in the workforce.
Okay, then trying to get a bit more flavor on the guidance. Above 750 can mean a lot. Can you give a bit more detail on what kind of magnitude we should be looking at?
Yeah. Hi, Andre. No, I mean, I think you know it says what it says basically. We've outlined the reasons why, the greater visibility, some more positive in turnkey, and so you know that's where we're at. So we expect to be over 750. So you can look at it, you know, between 750 and 800. I think that's how I look at it.
Okay, thanks. One last question on the agreement with the MPF. You spoke about the direct payment and installments. What kind of installments would those be? Would that be monthly installments?
Thank you, Andre. Erik here. Indeed, this the agreement that we have in place and that is effective with Petrobras and the other authorities. There are two components. There's a direct payment that we have done, and then in the future there is a bonus reduction that will play out over a number of years. And for that we have made all the arrangements of the agreement that allows us to be back in business. And I'm also happy to share with you that we see the result of that agreement, that some old issues with Petrobras that have been pending for a long time are now also resolved. But indeed, you know, the bonus reduction will have an impact over a number of years going forward.
Okay, thanks.
The next question comes from Mr. Guillaume Delaby, Société Générale. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my question. Could we have a little bit more granularity regarding the circa 45 projects you are working on? Should we understand that it is 45 new FPSOs, including conversion, or does it include FPSOs, or maybe, I don't know, turrets? Could we have a little bit more granularity? And how should we reconcile those 45 projects with a typical annual FPSO market? Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. Again, let me emphasize, we're not working on 45 projects. And one of the points that we have said and that we are re-emphasizing at this call is that we're going to take a selective approach and remain extremely disciplined with respect to the opportunity we're going to be following up. However, what we're saying is that in the market, there is potentially 45 new FPSOs to be developed over the coming 2 to 3 years. Now, some of them are going to happen, some of them are not going to happen, but that's the opportunity which are being present at this stage. But that's not, we're not following all those 45 projects, but it gives you an idea about the magnitude of the demand in the market.
That's very clear. Thank you very much, Bruno.
Ladies and gentlemen, for any additional question, please press star 1. No further. Oh, there's a last-minute question coming from Mr. Quirijn Mulder, ING. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Question on the fifth chamber. Is there no sign of whatsoever from this organization, or any signal that they are working on it, or is there anything you can say about it?
Erik,
yeah.
You want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Quirijn. As I mentioned, and to put matters in context, the agreement that we have that brings us back in business has immediate effect, and we see the result of that. Then there is the additional agreement with the public prosecutor to end also the litigation that is put on ice. That is indeed subject to the fifth chamber approval. All the documents have been filed, both by the company, the prosecutor, as well as the support from the other authorities and Petrobras. It is now with the fifth chamber. There's still a few meetings in 2018 scheduled, but you know, we don't know exactly when it will be handled. There is no, in that sense, further information that I can share with you, but all the preparation that we are involved in or that the other authorities are involved in has been performed. So indeed, we're now waiting for the final decision.
Okay, and my other question is about the remarks about the dividend. If I read the text correctly, given the demand in the market and maybe the cash you need for that, you're focusing on dividend. Does that mean, Douglas, that you are not considering anything like a share buyback in the future, even if it is an exceptional thing?
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is there's growth coming, but on the other hand, we have a lot of liquidity, the requisite liquidity in place. So we still got the billion RCF and an undrawn loan so far on LISA 1. And what this means is that we can maintain our policy, which is prioritising the dividend and consideration of shareholder returns. And I think, as you know, the policy is to keep the dividend stable and grow it over time, but where we look at underlying cash flow outlook. So, yeah, where we are at the moment, we're in the process of finalising our plans for next year. And I think, overall capital allocation and overall shareholder returns, you can expect us to comment further as normal with the year-end results.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chabas, there are no further questions. Please continue.
Okay, so thank you for joining us. So as a summary, SBM is on track for the year, and on the basis of good performance, we're upgrading our EBITDA guidance. We're seeing an upturn in the industry, and it's picking up. And on this basis, we have ordered the second hull for the fast-forward development. So based on this, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to follow up with our team. And on this, I wish you a good day, and you may now resume a normal activity.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the SBM Offshore conference call. You may now disconnect your line. Thank you for participating.